The 6:30 bus meandered its usual route through Portland's rain-slicked streets, its windows fogged by the collective breath of passengers bundled against the chill. Inside, the air smelled faintly of damp wool and takeout coffee, and the muted chatter of tired commuters blended with the steady growl of the engine. Near the back, an elderly Latino man eased into a seat, his hands folded over a smooth wooden cane, its surface worn and etched with faint symbols. He wore a faded denim jacket, the cuffs frayed, and a pair of khakis pressed with meticulous care, a quiet testament to his dignity. He blended into the background at first, just another figure in the routine hum of the city's end-of-day shuffle. But there was a certain stillness in him, a quiet authority in the way he sat, shoulders straight, eyes steady on the passing streets. His weathered face carried the weight of stories untold, his expression calm yet edged with a history written in subtle lines. A few stops later, the bus's calm fractured. 3 teenagers clattered aboard, their laughter loud, their movements restless. They weaved between passengers with the brazen energy of youth, shoving and teasing, scanning for entertainment. One of them, a lanky boy with a neon green beanie pulled low over his forehead, spotted the old man. His grin widened as he nudged his friends and whispered something that sent them into hushed snickers. The old man didn't flinch. His gaze remained on the rain-blurred city outside. But the boys weren't satisfied with being ignored. "Hey, old-timer," the boy in the green beanie called, his voice cutting through the murmur of the bus. "That cane for show, or you really that busted up?" A ripple passed through the bus. Some passengers shifted uneasily. Others buried their attention in their phones or stared hard out the windows, willing themselves into invisibility. Still, the old man gave no response. His fingers traced the carvings on the cane, his posture unchanged. The boy's grin sharpened. "What's the deal? Can't talk? Or you afraid we'll jack your senior pass?" A flicker crossed the man's face, barely perceptible, tightening around the eyes, but he stayed silent. His calm wasn't indifference, it was deliberate. The boy took a step closer, emboldened by the lack of reaction. "Come on, Gramps. You too good for us? Think you're better or something?" Across the aisle, a young woman toyed nervously with her scarf. A man with wire-rimmed glasses sank deeper into his paperback. The bus, already cramped, felt smaller, the air thick with tension. The old man remained still, his cane planted firmly between his knees, hands wrapped around it like roots gripping earth. The boy smirked at his friends. "Maybe he's deaf," he joked. "Yo, old man, you hear me?" Another teen chimed in, laughter in his voice. "Bet he's got a sword in there. Watch out, Ninja Grandpa's gonna slice us up." The insults bounced off the old man like pebbles against stone. His gaze drifted, unfocused, as if seeing a place far from the flickering lights of the bus. "Say something, viejo," the boy pressed, irritation bleeding into his bravado. The bus slowed at a light. The engine hummed in the pause. And then, at last, the old man spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "Respect isn't given because you're loud enough to demand it. It's earned in ways you haven't yet learned." The words settled into the silence, heavier than expected. The boy hesitated, his grin faltering for a breath. "Oh, look who talks now," he scoffed. "Respect? You think that stick makes you strong?" The old man met his gaze evenly. "Strength isn't about noise. It's what's left when the noise is gone." The boy's friends exchanged uneasy glances. Around them, the bus grew still. Passengers who tried to disappear were now quietly watching, caught in the gravity of the moment. The boy took another step forward, his tone turning sharper. "Show me then. Show me how strong you are, old man." The old man's chest rose and fell with a slow breath. His eyes didn't waver. "Strength isn't a show," he replied. "But if you're looking for proof," he planted his cane, rising with deliberate care. Though age had narrowed his frame, something in the way he stood filled the aisle with quiet force. "Then watch closely." A hush swept the bus. Even the boy stepped back, unsure whether he was still in control of the game he'd started. The old man's stance wasn't aggressive, it was steady. Grounded. His cane wasn't a crutch, but a reminder, a marker of paths walked, trials endured, lessons learned in places the boy couldn't imagine. You carry noise like armor, the old man said softly. But real strength? That's knowing when to lay it down. The boy swallowed, his swagger shrinking beneath the weight of those words. Behind him, his friends fidgeted, their laughter long since faded. The light turned green. The bus groaned forward. And for the first time since boarding, the teens fell quiet, their defiance dulled by something they couldn't quite name. The old man lowered himself back into his seat, his hands returning to the carved cane, his gaze once more to the window. Outside, the city passed by, unmoved, unchanged. But inside that bus, something had shifted, leaving behind a silence deeper than any insult could fill. It was just another rainy evening in Portland, the kind where headlights glistened on slick pavement and umbrellas bobbed like restless crows. Inside the 6:30 bus, the air was thick with damp wool and the faint aroma of takeout. People pressed into seats and corners, earbuds in, eyes lowered, waiting for the ride home to end. Near the back sat an elderly Latino man, his hands resting on a polished wooden cane carved with faint, almost forgotten symbols. His denim jacket, faded at the elbows, hung loose over pressed khakis. He carried himself like a man used to waiting, silent, observant, unbowed. His gaze followed the passing streets, but his thoughts seemed elsewhere, caught in distances no bus route could map. Few noticed him at first. He was the sort of figure cities wear like wallpaper, present, steady, overlooked. But something in his stillness, his quiet, unshaken presence, held weight, as if he belonged to another era, one where patience and strength meant more than volume. The doors hissed open at the next stop, spilling in a trio of teenagers, loud and restless, their sneakers squeaking across the damp floor. They took up space instantly, elbows, laughter, sideways glances, the energy of boys testing the edges of their own bravado. One of them, tall with a neon green beanie tilted over his brow, spotted the old man and grinned. "Check it," he muttered, nudging his friends. "Dude brought a wizard stick." His friend snickered. The man didn't turn. His gaze stayed fixed on the window, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass, but they weren't after indifference. They wanted a reaction. "Yo, Pops," the boy in the beanie called, loud enough to turn a few heads. "That cane for walking, or are you just holding it so no one steals it?" A ripple of unease moved through the bus. Some passengers glanced up, then away. A woman across the aisle fiddled with her scarf, a man in flannel buried his face deeper into a paperback. The old man didn't flinch. His fingers traced the carvings on his cane, steady, unmoved. The boy grinned wider, emboldened. "Come on, old man. You even hear me? Or you need batteries for those ears?" Silence. The old man's hand tightened faintly on the cane. His gaze never wavered. The bus rattled over a bridge. Outside, the city blurred in rain. Inside, tension bloomed like fog. "You scared, abuelo?" the boy pushed, leaning forward now. "You too good to talk to us?" The man's lips pressed into a thin line, his eyes sharpening. Slowly, he turned, not hurried, not provoked, but deliberate. He looked the boy in the eye. "Strength isn't loud," he said quietly. The words landed like a weight dropped into still water, their ripples subtle but undeniable. The boy blinked, thrown by the calm. "What?" "Strength," the man repeated, his voice calm as rain. "It's not noise. Not mockery. It's what you hold when no one's watching." The boy's grin faltered. His friends shuffled, suddenly uncertain. One mumbled, "Yo, chill, man," but the boy stayed planted, pride stiffening his spine. "You don't know me," he snapped. "I know enough." The man's gaze deepened, not unkind, but unyielding. "I know that cane's not what makes me strong. Every line in it's a memory. Every scar, a story. You think standing over someone smaller makes you big?" The boy's fists clenched. "You don't know my life." "I know enough," the man repeated. Enough to see a boy trying to wear a man's anger. Enough to know it won't fit. The bus slowed at a light. The engine hummed beneath the silence. Passengers leaned in, caught between discomfort and curiosity. "You think you've fought?" the man asked softly. "You think you've carried weight?" The boy's bravado cracked, subtle but visible. His friends were quiet now, their gazes low. "I carried friends out of fire," the man said, his voice almost a whisper. "I watched boys not much older than you think they were invincible. I learned otherwise." The bus jerked forward as the light changed. The boy swallowed, his throat working. "You're lucky," the man continued. "You get to learn without losing. But keep choosing this path, believing respect comes from fear, and life'll teach you harder than I ever could." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the boy's gaze dropped, his shoulders folding inward. Quietly, he turned, retreating to an empty seat beside his friends. They sat in uneasy silence, the earlier swagger drained from their bones. The man watched them a beat longer, then faced the window again, his reflection faint in the glass. A woman across the aisle spoke, her voice tentative. "Sir, that was remarkable." "Not remarkable," he replied, softly. "Necessary." A young man near the front pulled out an earbud. "El Salvador?" he asked quietly. The old man nodded once. "See. My uncle, he was there too." The man's expression softened. "We all left something behind." The young man's gaze lowered, his respect wordless but clear. At the next stop, the old man stood, tapping his cane once against the floor. Before stepping off into the rain, he turned, his voice carrying just enough to reach the back of the bus. "Kindness doesn't cost you," he said. "But disrespect? That'll cost you more than you can pay." The doors sighed open. He stepped out, shoulders straight, cane steady. The bus pulled away in silence, every passenger left a little quieter, a little heavier, carrying the moment like a stone in the pocket. And somewhere in the back, a boy in a green beanie stared out the window, unsure if he'd just been challenged, or forgiven.